Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. I'm Jamel Hartman. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medicals, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy. Again, please fill out the survey if you haven't already. And don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Without further ado, let's bring in our guest for the day. We've got Denise Reviere. We're talking about the Delta Reading Festival, right? I love this. I do. We've had many conversations with people from the Reading Clinic and educators about literacy in Bermuda over the last few years. So having things like this, in my opinion, is these are the kind of things that help us avoid situations like what we spoke about this morning. So let's give a warm TDH welcome to Denise Reviere as she enters the studio. Greetings. How are you?
Good morning. Hi, Jamel. How are you?
I'm good. Happy Monday to you. Happy
Monday. And hopefully, like you said earlier, some people find some joy at their job today.
yeah, right. And I again, we didn't plan it like this, and I'm hoping that even through our conversation, we can lift some people up. But before we get into today's conversation, I gotta ask you got a favorite chocolate?
Oh my goodness, I have so many, but it is the Whole Nut Cadbury.
Okay. But you know what? I might have to buy me one. Oh, I can't.
I think I'm gonna get one today too. That's your fault.
I might eat it. I was going to say I'll buy one and save it for the weekend, but I'll just wait till the weekend. I'll just remind you of the note. But Denise, thank you for your patience. Thanks for coming on. Conversations like this, as I said prior to you coming on, are really helpful for 2024 Bermuda. But just for those who don't know, this is an annual event. Just speak to them about what is the annual reading festival that the Delta's put on.
Sure. If I can first give my condolences to the family and friends of the young man that lost his life. Your conversation actually this morning is interesting because, like you said, it ties to a lot of stuff, but literacy is one of the side sort of angles on what our youth is, because back in the day when I was young, you didn't have to think about the things that our young people have to think about today. So literacy is almost, in some cases, some of the things wrapped around literacy is a little bit of a luxury that we didn't used to have a challenge with when we were young. So the Children's Reading Festival is something, as you said, it's our way of contributing towards the joy of reading, the joy of adventure, the joy of not having to think about some of the things the young people have to think about today, but instead being able to enter a book and enter an adventure and just transport to another place, which is sometimes what young people should be doing versus some of the stuff that's happening today. So yeah, this is our 25th year in doing the Children's Reading Festival. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, for those who might not be familiar with us, it's actually a worldwide public service organization. There's 300,000 women across the world who are part of the organization. And one of our programmatic thrusts is educational development. So that's what this initiative falls under. We started this back in 1999. So it's been trucking along, and it's grown over the years. We get, in some cases, thousands between parents and children who come out just to, I think, enter the world of adventure. And, you know, with the topic we are talking about today, we don't have enough about that. We might have, as a country, 98% literacy, but we're still missing out on the ability of young people to be young people and not have such heavy things to worry about, like whether or not you can even go to a party and be safe. Right. You know, there's things that I couldn't even imagine thinking about at that age. So, so hopefully us continuing this event continues to contribute towards the positive parts of what young people could and should be doing.
Indeed. Thank you for that. Again, connects right through to this morning's discussion. Audience, if you have any questions or comments for Denise, please send them through and we'll get through as many questions and comments as possible. I enjoy this. I was not a reader until I became an adult. And that's to say, my mother would get me a lot of books when I was young. But she got me books because she realized I was not interested in reading. She got me like, and I forget what they were, but let's say it was a book company that had like 36 different kinds of topics. So it might have been aviation, it might have been computers, sports. that's how I actually learned a lot about sports and geography. I was always fascinated with different places. So I learned different countries that most people didn't even know exist. I remember when I went on my honeymoon, I was telling people at the reception, going to Mauritius, what's that? Like, did I make that up? But I found out so much through that. And I realized that, and it impacted me right through to college, because I did never enjoyed school until I went to college, where I was actually studying something I was interested in. So I love events like this, because it's, to me, is not just giving people books and saying read. It might is tying it to where people are interested. But explain, based on what I just said, just explain to people, and you kind of touched on it already, why an event like this is so necessary in Bermuda today.
Sure. Well, a couple of things. The part that I was just talking about, to expand on that a little bit, is, when we are growing, and even as adults, we continue to grow. Part of what's important is creativity, and, being able to, speak eloquently. And, there's so many things, no matter whether we're birthed right up until 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, we always have a part of us that relies on our ability to think outside the box. And things like that come with reading a book. Now you have people who read them electronically, read them physically. I mean, you actually probably could start a pretty good debate on whether it's better to read a book, the physical book, or read it online. But so the whole idea of reading is even changing based on technology. And so one of the things that the Children's Reading Festival does is we've stayed at the traditional level of trying to connect a physical book to children. So every child that comes in the park gets a free book. We partner with Scholastic for our books, the book club. We get those every year from them. And the idea that somebody's life and being a productive citizen is actually connected to how well you can actually explore things outside of the seriousness of every day. Even performance at work, depends on how much can you actually be creative and, be curious. That curiosity comes from, when you were young. I know my mother used to make me read before I went to sleep every night. I don't know how many parents still do that. I think a lot of our young people are very much into technology and video games, which is not a bad thing because it's a sign of changing times. But are we making sure that they are still connecting to books, whether it be online or physical books, that help them to be able to expound the type of person they are when they grow up, and how much and in which way they can contribute to the community. So literacy is just tied to everything we do. And it's not just the books. Even we also at the Children's Reading Festival have a very large arts and crafts section. We have music. There are aspects outside of just reading that people need to remember when they think about the topic of literacy. So I think the way literacy connects to every aspect of our life is what we're trying to do at the Children's Reading Festival. We're just trying to remind people that there's joy in reading. We're trying to make sure that we inspire imagination. There's things that are useful at different phases of our lives. And then we also make sure we have resources for parents, because parents are the ones that should be modeling what they want their young people to do. If your children don't see you reading, they probably will not read as much. If they don't see you getting excited about imagination and creativity and things like that, they probably won't. So we also work very closely with our various resources in the community who will be present at the fair, at the festival. And the reason why we have them there is because we're trying to inspire parents as much as we're trying to inspire young people.
Indeed. Love that. And Audie, I want to know, because you said I'm stuck on the traditional book versus the the app reading apps like Kindle stuff. And I want to ask the audience, do you prefer children reading the traditional book, like turning pages, or the computer? And I asked that. Suzanne Ingham says, I prefer a book in hand. I can mark it, write in it, take it everywhere. I can read it much faster, logging it around with me. I love reading a book. Reading is just awesome. I don't know if science will support what I'm about to say, but for me, I have downloaded books. And that's because, driving in the US, you might want to put a book on. But I prefer reading it because I can follow along. I can, as she just said, it's maybe I'm old fashioned, but I can relate to what I'm reading more, doing it that way than listening to because now we have the listening, right? The audio books. Reading on a device, to me, the screen time, I don't find that healthy. I'm not sure if science will back me up, but the screen time is what I have an issue with. But not saying that people shouldn't do it, folks. Again, if that's the method, I'm no educator, I'm no doctor or anything, but I do wonder if people prefer reading books by traditionally the traditional way, turning pages, or on devices. And we've got Lisa Lister says turning pages. Carrie Simmons says physical book, turning pages. Yeah, okay, all right. I think
for children, it's the pictures. It's the, there's so much more to it for children. It's not just, a child listening to an audiobook, that's great. But there's even more you get from it when you actually follow the pictures. You can slow down, you can go back and repeat something. So there is part of literacy, and the expansion of literacy, I think, is how children read books and what they see. Storytelling is not just reading a book. We like to use the terminology storytelling because, hopefully parents are reading to their young people and they put animation, they put, voices, characters. That's the imagination I was talking about earlier. Bringing a book to life is what increases young people's literacy and then eventually makes them, I think, a more effective individual way 20 years later when they're working. Some of that foundation is because they read a book.
Yeah. And I love it. Let's talk about ages. You said that this is for parents as well, but as far as young people, who's it aimed at?
Sure. So from baby up to age 14 is our age group. And they literally come pouring in from the time we open up the gate. Some parents are bringing their children every year. It's been going on so long that it has become an annual activity for families. We have something exciting this year, though, and that is that we have expanded our reach on who exactly we're targeting. And we are trying to be more inclusive of children in the community who might have learning disabilities or might thrive in a less traditional type of environment. And so we partnered with a local organization called Beyond Inclusion. And their founders are Rebecca Lawrence and Brianna Bull Roach. And we had a conversation with them and asked them, how can we expand what we do at the Children's Reading Festival to make sure it's more inclusive and that it is just as exciting for other children as it is as the ones who've been coming for 25 years. So we've encouraged young people who may need to follow sign language. We're having a sign language interpreter for some of the storytelling. We're also going to expand on our sensory station, which sort of gets a lot more into sensory, like how touch, feeling, hearing. We're actually going to have support animals there, dogs. So we're really trying to expand now to be more diverse in literacy, because literacy, when we traditionally think about how we read, how we listen, there are individuals that do not have that same type of ability, but they should be getting the same type of benefit from the festival. So I think that's probably one of the most exciting things for this 25th year is the launch into, another couple of decades of a more inclusive event.
I love it. I do, Denise. I really do. And I think one of the things that I think my mother tried with me is she knew I didn't like school. She tried to make it sound fun to me. She couldn't. I got to college, when I asked her, could I major in something? She said no. And then, I was able to dual major. But in saying that, I think the same with reading for me is, as I've gotten older, I love to read. And that's, one of a close friend, and I consider her a mentor as well. She was the one that started buying me books as an adult, and I just started loving what I was reading. And so like I started to read more, like what my mom did for me, is read more of what I was interested in. My advice to anyone is, don't wait till you get my age to do it. because it's fun. It's fun. I think we look at reading as wasting time. As I got older, I don't watch as much TV if it's not sports or news aim shows, and not traditional news. I don't do it, but I tell people, find something you enjoy. If it's sports, read about it. People were asking about statistics this morning. We have a tendency to only look on people's websites for stuff. Like, I think the internet's made us lazy, right? Because before, when I went to college, I know when you probably first met us, I'm not aging you, I'm just saying, when we went to college, we had to spend more time in the library than we did on Google. So we think, times have changed.
We had the big encyclopedia.
Still in that era, and I'm sure most of the audience are not aging, I'm just saying. But you spoke about the event. We need to know when and where does this event take place? Like, we need details. Crash.
It is in Victoria Park, where it is every year, and it is Saturday, November 2nd, Saturday coming up. And the times are 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we have a lot of great things going on, some new activities. We make sure we're balancing, the fun stuff like fun castles and things like that. And we have tattoos and all sorts of things like that. But we're also making sure that parents understand that literacy is the reason for the event. So we have a lot of games. We have, for the first year, we're setting up a literacy sort of Candyland type of game that's tied to shapes and letters and numbers. We have, of course, the book tent where everyone is getting a free book. We have the parent resource tent. Every half hour, we're going to have readers in the pavilion, in the gazebo that's in the middle. We have, the Minister Darla Ravane is going to be reading. Premier David Burt is going to be reading. Lady Kristen Burt is going to be reading. Minister Crystal Caesar. So we have made sure that we are role modeling this from the top. And involving them in storytelling to young people. We have some of our community partners that will be on board, not just in the park, but also in the actual parents resource area specific to generating energy around their responsibility with literacy. We are going to have a literacy tent that is based on technology, because we do believe that there is benefit. There's a lot of games on iPads and things like that young people can grow from. But it is definitely the traditional trying to tie them to a book is one of our main goals. I mentioned earlier that we are expounding on our sensory station. We have arts and crafts. And then our donors have made it really exciting this year. We have a donor who is going to be donating school book bags. So every child is going to get a school book bag with a lot of fun stuff in it. One of our donors, called Triple Flag Precious Metals, they wanted to know how they could help, and that's the idea that they came up with. Cisco Bermuda is making sure that each child gets a book. So it's really going to be a park of activity, lots going on, and we just encourage everybody birth to 14 to come on down to Victoria Park this Saturday between 11 and 4 o'clock. We have entertainment, magician, so anything you can think going on. Our MC is going to be Patrina. She's coming and she always adds life to the party, so she's going to be coming and participating in the event with us. So that's sort of what it is. There's something you said, Jamel, though, that triggered a thought in me, and it was you saying that as an adult, you got into books more. One of the things we really need to remember is young people suffer from depression, suffer from stress, suffer from those type of things. A book is an outlet.
Yes.
So people need to remember that mental health, when it does come time to need to do something, yes, we would all love to be able to afford getting on a plane and going somewhere to relieve stress and just to sort of, level out. But sometimes picking up a book, picking up a nonfiction book is what we need just to be able to disconnect from what's going on in our everyday life. So not only is the fear about literacy, we can tie it to mental health, because it is what provides an avenue for going into a different world if you wanted to.
Yeah, indeed. No, that's a good point. Books are an outlet. They are an outlet. The Chico Trot says, this is a great initiative. Delta's wishing you all the best. I'll just remind people who might want more information where they can go to learn more about this Saturday's event.
Sure. Our Facebook page, you can look up Bermuda Alumni Chapter is Delta Sigma Theta. So we have more information on our Facebook page. We actually did a story in the paper recently. So we're trying to get information out through as many channels as possible. And any of those will give you more details or give you details about the event.
Indeed. Thank you so much. This has been an awesome conversation, especially on the back of what we were discussing earlier, Denise. Thank you. Thank you so much. And if there's anything between now and Saturday that we can communicate with our audience, please reach out. You have my information, and we'll do a part to remind people, especially on Friday morning show, that there's an event taking place by the Deltas that the community wants to be a part of. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, Denise Reviere, folks. If you appreciated today's conversation, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Look, I want us to treat events like this like cop match, and I mean that. I want to ensure that get your blankets, get your stuff, go out to these events. Make sure our young people are part of these events. Again, to me, events like this help eliminate events like what we experienced in Bermuda this past weekend. We're going to take our final break. We'll come back after this break in about 57 seconds. We'll do the daily play. Obviously, I don't have a co-host, so the audience will tell me who the author of this famous quote is when we get back. Stick with us.